Film noir came of age during a time when the entire world was shrouded in darkness. Drawing upon murky fragments found in the German expressionist art movement, as well as hard-boiled detective literature, Hollywood's own dark turn notably took place during and in the immediate aftermath of the Great Depression and two devastating world wars. While whimsy certainly abounded in a media midwifed by the parlor tricks of obsessive illusionists, almost as soon as cinema found its celluloid sea legs in baths of silver nitrate, filmmakers turned their lenses towards the vices and irredeemable qualities of the human experience. The shadowy edges of life were largely allowed free rein in their cinematic realization until the introduction of the Haze Code in the 1930s. The Code, a puritanical censorship model adopted by the major Hollywood studios, prohibited extreme and overt approaches to violence, sexuality, and portrayals of darker aspects of society, which left artists scrambling to find more subtle and sensitive ways of doing so. Darker impulses did not elude the silver screen just because they could not be addressed directly. Paradoxically, the Haze Code only created further ambiguity. By leaving violence and sexuality suggestive and out of focus, a tension was established between what was portrayed on screen and what the audience knew to be true, whether implied or from experience in the world. It was in this obscurity, ensconced in the darkness that the light peeking through the Venetian blinds could not touch, that film noir resided. The cinematic grammar of the film noir was tonally ideal to be welded to the detective stories and conspiratorial mysteries that intrigued and fixated literary fiction readers, not to mention the pervasive fog of economic despair and political paranoia that epitomized this era of history. The devil's desires may have lost their illumination, but this did not mean that they no longer existed. Their absence from the silver screen made them loom only larger in the minds of the audience. Neo-Noir, by turn, is typified by its licentiousness. By the time the 1970s thundered in, gone were the trials and tribulations of the early 20th century, as was the Haze Code. What was gestured to in the film noirs from the 1930s to the 1960s could now be fully realized in gritty, blood-drenched detail. Heroism was a dead letter in the culture, as Vietnam and the mayhem of the 1960s brought the full face of violence and corruption into televisual view, so it stands to reason that the cinema would reflect this harrowing unmasking. But what happens when things that found their home in decrepit alleyways are forced out into the light of day? Are the darker questions haunting civilization solved by visibility alone? In its new nakedness, the film noir extended its gloom towards neon-lit and sun-soaked aesthetics, color no guarantee of a happy ending, or even an ending at all. For after all, evil has always dazzled under any lighting conditions, in any hue. It is not enough for a neo-noir film to merely recycle tropes from its forebears, imitating the stylistic choices and plot scaffolding from classic noir. A neo-noir resonates best when it is in dialogue with the history of the genre, while deviating to contend with the overwhelming and incomprehensible new reality of the technologically interconnected world. Rather than solving the world's problems, the age of transparency and instantaneous knowledge is just as capable of deforming as it is informing.
Seems it never rains in Southern California. Seems I've
sun-bleached and substance-addled amateurs have floundered and stumbled their way through convoluted plots where grizzled detectives previously stalked. Traumatized loners, antisocial voyeurs, and icy killers resign themselves to a savage existence on the margins, punctuated by fleeting moments of potential escape from their psychic labyrinths. An altogether psychedelic and incantatory mood pervades, and there is malaise aplenty as well. Isolated protagonists are just as likely to be lost in the haze of the heat and blinded by the radiance of the city lights as they are to be swallowed by the shadows like their classic noir counterparts. For in the light, all is rendered equal. Everything becomes a possible lead. Anyone could be part of the mystery, and the lack of contrast makes it harder to distinguish friend from foe. The formal plot structure of the noir buckles under the glut of possibilities, as characters fashion entire pseudo-realities haphazardly, layering incompatible ethics atop the raging chaos, or else checking out completely in order to make sense of a world that refuses to add up. Neo-Noir imparts in the viewer the unbearable and manically comic notion that by bringing everything into the light, you do not merely solve the mystery. Rather, you are inundated with an overwhelming confusion and ambient terror at how sprawling and inscrutable the truth often is. One longs for the darkness, to retreat to the comfort of the cave, to craft a narrative that brings closure. But where is one to turn once everything is laid out for you? But knowledge alone changes nothing. There are always, of course, more threads to pull in other directions if one is eager to continue, though there is no guarantee of clarity, and restless detective work can just as easily be a distraction from what becomes glaringly, painfully obvious. Darkness alone does not make a noir film. Noir is blanketed by the sense that there is something lingering just out of frame, but cannot be grasped. It eats at you. There is a mystery to be solved, certainly, but also something deeper and far more haunting. That perhaps the darkness is secretly where we are most at home. You may solve the case, save the dame, arrest the villain, but after all is said and done, that empty apartment above the cable car line then rings awfully silent in the night. Every clink of the whiskey glass amplified by the loneliness that accompanies a total understanding that nonetheless changes nothing about a deeply flawed world. It is human nature to be fearful of what lurks in the shadows. Neo-Noir illuminates that total exposure can be just as terrifying. For once you've brought something into the light, now you have to look it in the eye. This is the psychic challenge at the heart of Neo-Noir cinema. What do you do once you've seen the truth, writ large across Sunset Boulevard in neon, riddled with bullet holes? Once it's blinding you in the rearview mirror on the freeway, no longer content to whisper in the night. Do you look away and retreat again to the darkness, continuing to cruise the boulevards of regret? Or is there some other way forward? Another exit, just up ahead.